In this episode, I want to take a look back at one of my favorite eras of anime and the top series associated with it, the 2000s. Mind you, the 2000s had a plethora of many hit anime. Some stuff won't be included on this list because I just don't have the time to make an ultimate list of the most popular.
1990X 年
While the 1990s had its fair share of hits among the masses, anime just wasn't as popular outside of Japan, or at least here in the States. Maybe things were different where you're from. Until the very first decade of the new millennium. For most, what little you saw on television was all you had. Also, those who were really into the fandom at the time had ways of acquiring import releases, bootlegs, fan subs on video and such. These could usually be found at conventions, fan clubs, etc. Of course, there were always official video releases on home media formats, which were sometimes absurdly expensive, and the very occasional theatrical release of a feature film. Anime became a lot more easily accessible, mostly in the mid to late 2000s due to more home video releases including more official, complete box sets of series, more on television, online video services, and the gateway for free digital media, peer-to-peer file sharing. With these outlets ever increasing, it was just a matter of time before anime was exposed to a much broader audience. Disclaimer, I'm mainly covering in this video anime, not necessarily the manga, series that premiered between January 1st, 2000 and December 31st, 2009. So with that out of the way, let's hop straight into some of the more standout series of the 2000s, starting with Naruto. Arguably the most popular of its time on a worldwide scale, Naruto to some can be considered the breakthrough series of the decade. While not as popular as something like Dragon Ball Z in its prime, it still created a legion of fans that still adore it to this day. It was a craze that spawned boatloads of merchandise, feature films, video games, and more. Whether you were there from the manga's humble beginnings, managed to see the anime premiere on TV Tokyo in Japan way back in 2002, or just now being exposed to the series, it's easy to see why this one has such a broad appeal. Taking a bit of the usual formula for a typical shonen series, Masashi Kishimoto's Naruto is presented by a simple, easy-to-follow plot for most of the series. It includes relatable characters, especially for its target demographic. A high amount of action and fighting focused around both traditional martial arts as well as over-the-top abilities and powers, and a decent amount of comedy that doesn't overstay its welcome. A recipe for universal appeal, I say. Although I say its plot is relatively simplistic, that's not to say it's not well written. A sort of coming-of-age story that involves the main character being an outcast for particular reasons who sets out to prove his worth to those around him. Naruto, in my honest opinion, is a very solid watch, or read, through and throughout. The anime definitely isn't without its faults though, most notoriously being the TV series being plagued with filler episodes. It was rough for those who had been watching the series up until the final episode of Shippuden. I remember first being exposed to the series via YouTube in the early days of the platform, around 2005 I believe. I used to see many links to this youtube.com site that anyone could upload various videos to, and many generous anime fans would upload the latest episodes for many others to enjoy. Shortly after, here in the US, Naruto was set to premiere on the animation block Toonami on Cartoon Network. From here on, and the advent of the digital media sharing monster that was BitTorrent, Naruto soon saw its popularity explode tenfold, going forward into the brand new decade. Fandom took off and it didn't look back. Conventions were chock full of fanatics that donned headbands of the favorite hidden village, Akatsuki robes were a trend, forming hand signs was no longer a thing for just local gangs, and running like the characters from the series was a thing, apparently. Crazy, I know. Not as popular as it once was, Naruto will still be a series that will likely go down in history as one of the most defining in the genre. I think it's well deserving too. Despite being one of those series that some seem to hate or question its popularity, especially over what they felt were more deserving series of the time, I believe some anime fans should understand that not everything great in the medium need to be life-changing, thought-provoking, a pinnacle in writing, character/plot development, and having the budget of a Disney animated feature film. Sometimes, simple is enough for most fans, and that's quite alright in my book. I'm pretty sure you all saw this one coming a mile away. So boys and girls, let's talk Death Note. Similar to most of the series I'm covering, Death Note is without a doubt a series praised by both casual and hardcore anime fans alike. Honestly, I've probably never run across anyone who absolutely hated the series. Maybe just the occasional fan who, like many, had problems with the second half of the series, but that's about it. This one has universal praise on a grand scale, with Death Note being a series that has a captivating and complex plot, mature themes that can be enjoyed by many different ages, fantastic characters, and a highly engaging crime/mystery/fantasy narrative. It's no wonder fans the world over ate this one up. A tale of the main character given the power to cast judgment on those with unlawful backgrounds. He quickly starts power tripping, which ultimately sees him playing a game of cat and mouse with local and worldwide law enforcement. Who doesn't like to keep up with a good crime drama that centers around a genius psychopath who seems to always slip out of the cracks when the tides turn against him? Another series that I and many others consider groundbreaking for the time, the anime's original run from October 3rd, 2006 till the summer of 2007, again, like Naruto, saw huge exposure due to the incredible surge of fan subbing, torrents, and media sharing in the late 2000s. But that was just the start. Once it officially saw the light of day in other regions of the world, it seemed unstoppable. Death Note's popularity spanned more merch past the initial manga and anime adaptation. It had side stories, multiple games focused around the source material, as well as characters being featured in Shonen Jump crossover games, movies, apparel, and more. Manga and home video release sales were favorable, fans dressed as their favorite characters dominated conventions, word of mouth reached those who didn't even care for anime, and even saw a fair share of controversy that even had it featured on local news programs. Death Note is one of those series that doesn't come around too often. An insanely gratifying premise that I can comfortably say is a gateway for anyone looking to get into anime. Compelling and complex enough to satisfy hardcore fans, while at the same time highly addictive enough for the masses to thoroughly appreciate. Death Note's time in the limelight was a much deserved one that will leave a huge lasting impression on fans worldwide. Back in 2004, I used to be pen pals with a few people from Japan over the internet. I remember one particular conversation discussing the anime with one of them and telling her what anime I was watching over here in the States at the time, which I said I was loving Case Closed, or Detective Conan. She replied by telling me that that was a really popular series over there and a few more that were really big, one of which being Full Metal Alchemist. I found out a bit later that that particular anime was coming stateside via Funimation, or the animation block on Adult Swim. Long story short, her simply telling me how much of a hit it was in Japan was just a hint of what could potentially be the case for a domestic release over here. The thing is though, Case Closed didn't have the appeal to hit it big, so why would Full Metal Alchemist? What's so great about this one? Well, a lot apparently. Full Metal Alchemist is a popular manga from the early 2000s that received an anime adaptation in 2003. The series revolves around two brothers who are practitioners of alchemy who lost physical parts of their bodies due to them trying to bring back a loved one through the art, which is quite taboo. Their journey to restore themselves gets them entangled in an ongoing war, aiding the military, dodging rival alchemists hell-bent on revenge, as well as dealing with personal struggles. Another series to become a staple in the industry once it crossed shores, its eventual airing on Adult Swim boded well for both the broadcast partner as well as his North American distributor. It easily proved itself amongst fan favorites such as Cowboy Bebop, Trigun, and Foodie Cootie. Fans and critics alike found its brilliant writing, memorable cast, and immersive world captivating. How it dealt with social issues that a lot of the audience is familiar with was a welcome addition. It made us think, feel, laugh, and more. I guess now is as good a time as any to say that the anime differs from the manga after a bit. It didn't stop it from being an extremely solid watch though. They both have a lot of fans of one, the other, or both. And with that said, let's shift focus to another Full Metal Alchemist series that aired in the later 2000s. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Brotherhood is another TV anime adaptation of Hiromu Arakawa's original story. This time, the plot stays, for the most part, on par with the manga. This one, prior to a stateside airing, first got localized for English-speaking audiences through the television channel in Asia, Animax Asia. They aired subtitled versions of Brotherhood episodes in both English and Chinese in various Asian regions. From there, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood then saw itself come stateside again through online streams from Funimation until its inevitable English dub premiere on Adult Swim on February 10th, 2010. It was another fantastic hit, though it can be hard to decipher what was more of a hit between the OG anime and Brotherhood. In my honest opinion, I'd say Brotherhood edged out the OG by a bit. Anime was getting a lot more popular in the late 2000s. Peer-to-peer sharing reigned, licensing companies started online on-demand streams, and with the original being as popular as it was, of course fans would gravitate towards another version. Why wouldn't they? And lastly, we can't talk Full Metal Alchemist fandom without discussing everything that spawned from it. For 2 straight years, the original series topped TV Asahi's web poll as the #1 anime series voted upon by fans. It also cracked the top 20 in a nationwide Japanese poll along with fan favorites such as Dragon Ball, Slam Dunk, Gundam, Doraemon, and more. Brotherhood also saw favorable ratings when it came to its broadcast. Each series saw multiple DVD and Blu-ray releases. Giant video game publishers such as Square Enix and Bandai Namco released numerous game spin-offs of the series on multiple platforms. There were also 2 movies based around both TV series, one of which I absolutely love, which is The Conqueror of Shambhala, and the list goes on. This series is one of those that seems to have been seen or read by most anime fans. Whether they read the manga, only saw the original TV series, or the more recent Brotherhood, this one always comes up in the best of, top, or most popular anime discussion. Me and many other fans can agree that they all surely live up to the hype. And if you haven't been exposed to anything Full Metal Alchemist, put aside whatever you're reading or watching and do yourself a justice and go check out Brotherhood. Or the manga. Or the first TV series, that one's still pretty good. Any of those will do really. Just go check out anything that is Full Metal Alchemist. Okay, so here's a few more that I could not bring up. Let's go over them briefly. Code Geass. Not quite the cultural phenomenon that was Death Note from the same year, it's without a doubt that this one was highly praised in its day. No matter what's your opinion on Code Geass, the series from the start had fans hooked and it cemented itself in the archives of anime history. A story about war, friendship, rivalries, revenge, and more. The plot revolves around Lelouch, an exiled resident of the super empire Britannia, who now resides in Japan, which has been overthrown by the empire which is ruled by his father. Sometime later, he becomes quite the popular student at his place of academics, Ashford Academy, and has made a few close friends. Knowing full well what his father has done, he vows to take down the Holy Britannian Empire with a surreal power given to him from a mysterious girl who saved his life named C2. This is the power of Geass, a power that allows one to control another at his or her command through direct eye contact. He soon becomes a sort of vigilante hero for the people, simply known as Zero. I feel this series was such a huge deal because of a few factors. First, character designs by legendary manga troupe Clamp of Ray Earth, X, and Holic fame. Second, having an amazingly intriguing plot, well fleshed out characters and world, and a mashup of genres that appease many fans. Third, again, sound like a broken record, this series hit during the fan subbing and torrenting heyday. It's kinda hard to say that fan subs distributed through these type of file sharing services didn't have a huge impact on anime being exposed to a much larger audience than ever before. And lastly, well, general exposure. This was one seen regularly recommended on many a forum, blog post, chat room, critic site, and then some. It was localized in many languages and just took off after it hit the TV scene here in the US. It was tough to not hear about this Code Geass back in the late 2000s. It kinda is now also. So now we have Bleach. Considered one of the big three weekly Shonen Jump manga series in the mid to late 2000s, this was one that many would say would give Naruto a run for his money as far as popularity goes. Ichigo Kurosaki, a typical angsty teenager gifted, or more likely cursed, with the power to see ghosts. One night he encounters a young girl named Rukia, who is a Shinigami. She's surprised that Ichigo can see her, and shortly after the two encounter a hollow. Rukia, being wounded by the apparition, bestows some of her powers onto Ichigo, who seemed to take not just some, but most of it. He defeats the creature with ease, and shortly after assumes the role that Rukia once had, a Shinigami who defends against the hollow threats and the Soul Society. I figure not much is to be said about Bleach that I haven't said about the previously mentioned series and what made them a hit. While I'm not that much of a fan of this one, I can easily see why it was huge. A battle series with an easy to follow but still expansive narrative, this was a series that started extremely strong and hardcore and casual fanatics ate it up, until it reached the later stages and seemingly fell apart. Another tale for another day. The manga sales were, of course, strong. The TV show was a force to be reckoned with when it came to anime. It had way too many video games. And merchandise reigned. It's pretty sad to see such a staple in anime that helped define an era go through tough times as time went on and eventually die a slow, miserable death, at least according to some. It did, however, avoid the grim fate of cancellation and actually concluded, bringing the end of a 15-year legacy. Well, it was fun reflecting on a time that I remember fondly, one that helped shape me into the anime fan that I am to this day. I'm still finding new series from the 2000s to check out and enjoy. It's really interesting to see just how much bigger anime has grown outside of its place of origin since the 1960s. Man, I remember in the 90s when I first heard the term Japanimation, and the popular shows, movies, and OVAs associated during the time. They really left an impression on me. I never thought anime would become as widely popular amongst the masses as it is now in 2019. There are so many that are extremely popular these days, and it's so easy to watch them. We no longer have to rely on bootlegs, renting, fan subs, file sharing, and whatever's on TV. The future looks bright for this form of entertainment, and I think I'll never lose interest in it as time goes on. I wish I could have covered more series in this episode, but I didn't want this video to go on for too long. What are some of your favorite anime series from the 2000s? And with that being said, I'll see you guys later.